Hey everyone, in this video we're going to take a look at one of the reasons why athletes struggle with emotions and some of the underlying factors that cause emotional suffering. If you've ever struggled with your emotions in or outside a competition, then you definitely want to stick around until the end. You're watching SPMI TV. Emotional suffering encompasses a wide range of symptoms and topics of discussion. And although there are many serious issues which involve this topic, we're going to discuss some areas in which you or an athlete you know may improve by making a few mindset changes in your life. Now, before continuing, please note that this video is in no way, shape, or form a solution to severe emotional suffering or emotional distress, such as depression or any anxiety disorders. If you feel you may be struggling in those areas, please reach out to a licensed psychologist, as those areas exceed the realm of the sports setting. You often see athletes struggle emotionally by the way they express their behaviors or body language. You may notice that you get upset, frustrated, sad, or even embarrassed. All of these signs are expressions of various emotions. Now, as an athlete, I want to break down what emotional suffering is using a simplistic formula. The formula is written out as emotional suffering equals pain times resistance. To understand the meaning of this formula or equation, let's take the first variable, pain. Pain is caused by several key components among the athlete's life. These components all pertain to how an athlete perceives a situation that he or she is facing. In today's video, I'm going to discuss three of the components that lead to athletes suffering emotionally. But before discussing the first one, please like the video if you haven't. It greatly helps out the channel. Also, if you enjoyed learning the latest mental toughness techniques, please subscribe to the channel. I post new videos every week. Lastly, if you enjoy listening to podcasts, please check out the new company podcast called the SPMI Podcast. I've recently recorded a more detailed version on this topic of emotional suffering, and you can listen to that on the podcast. I've also included a link to that episode in the description section below. Okay, let's now talk about the three components of emotional suffering. The first component is called perfection. Many athletes who struggle emotionally idealize upcoming performances to the point in which they have created in their mind that less than a perfect result is failure. This mentality creates emotional suffering, as the athlete may experience an increase in anxiety and a decrease in self-worth. The result of a perfectionist mindset leaves many athletes in a state of competition avoidance altogether, to where they end up not taking risks in competition and even trying to avoid competition altogether. Therefore, the resistance to mistakes is what causes the pain and multiplies the athlete's emotional suffering. Athletes who struggle with perfectionism need to embrace mistakes. They also need to perceive mistakes as learning opportunities for future performances and overall competition growth. The second component to emotional suffering is called permanence. Many athletes who struggle emotionally expect their success to be permanent and never fluctuate throughout their sports career. Basically, this means that if the athlete is performing great, he or she expects that her performance should always be great. Another example would be an athlete having difficulty letting go of the fact that his coach will no longer be coaching him after the season. And a final example of permanence is an athlete who is fixated on the belief that her training cannot be interrupted. If her training gets interrupted in any way, such as through an unexpected injury or bad weather, the athlete will emotionally suffer greatly. This is due to her worry that she will not be able to succeed if those parts of her life are not permanent. What athletes who struggle with permanence fail to realize is that impermanence is a part of life, and that nothing can truly remain the same forever. So, to break down the emotional suffering equation more, in this area, the pain is represented by the athlete's inability to accept and welcome change in their lives. Even change that is non-ideal. Therefore, the solution to overcoming this emotional suffering is to embrace that life is impermanent. Also, the athlete must acknowledge that with a strong mindset, you can oftentimes take something bad and make it great. The third component to emotional suffering is called personalization. Personalization is when the athlete takes their struggle and makes it unique to only them. Some examples of personalization are when athletes make comments like, "Why does this always happen to me?" or "I'm such a bad player." These statements are detrimental to performance and also reduce enjoyment of sport. This is because personalization often becomes a fabric of one's identity. Looking back at the emotional suffering equation, in this example, the athlete's pain is caused by the inability to acknowledge or accept that life is impersonal. Also, the athlete struggles to accept that when bad things occur, the athlete is not experiencing those bad things because the universe wanted them to fail. So, for athletes to overcome the bad habit of personalization, they must instead learn that one's identity is fluid and can be enhanced at any given moment. Therefore, an athlete who feels that a bad performance always happens to them may experience a good performance the next day as long as his attitude is positive. And an athlete who may feel that she is a bad player today may have a great performance tomorrow. So, as an athlete, you want to embrace situations as impersonal, in that you have the ability to grow from all experiences, both good and bad. So, there you have it, a better understanding of what causes emotional suffering among many athletes. If you haven't already, please like the video as it greatly helps out the channel. And if you're interested in learning the latest mental toughness techniques to help your performance, then please subscribe to the channel. I release new videos every week. Also, please check out the new company podcast called the SPMI Podcast. There, you can hear a more in-depth conversation on this topic and much more great content. I also post a new podcast weekly. So, thanks again for watching. I greatly appreciate the support and see you next week.